In this video, we're going to be talking about loops. In this video, we're going to be talking about loops. All right, hopefully you got that joke. We're going to be talking about loops in this, and it's going to be a real simple concept. We're going to go over a lot of little miniature challenges in this to hopefully solidify some of the concepts with loops and what they do. Let's go ahead and go inside of VSCode here. And inside here, I have my Python folder, I have lessons, and inside here, I have loops.py. So we're just going to talk about the for loops in this video here. And loops are just used to repeat a block of code multiple times and over. And you get to tell it how many times that you would like to go through it. So we're going to provide you with a few thought cases on utilizing it and demonstrating it and such. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and collapse this, give us a little more room. And the very first example that we're going to do is I just want to print to the console 5 times. And in this scenario here, the keywords that we need to type in here in order to get this to work is going to be the keyword for. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 4 in there. And then usually there's going to be a variable. Again, this can be arbitrary. It really doesn't matter what it is, but it's traditionally I for incrementer. So I'm going to say for I, and then you're going to use that keyword in. And that is going to tell Python, hey, I have a variable here and it's going to increment and we need to provide it a range. And so if I type in range of 5 and I'm going to put a colon on here, again, we're talking about having our tabs, right? So make sure you're indented here. And we just want to print I. Let's see what happens here. So I'm going to hit the play button here and notice that we get a 0 here and then a 1, 2, 3, 4. But I told this thing to go 5 times. How many times did it go? It did go 5, but just remember that computer language, we start off with 0. So we're starting off at 0. So a way to think about this is anything that's in the indented space here underneath the for loop, every single thing to get ran underneath this, and it's starting off at I being 0, and then we have this range here saying, hey, how long do we want to keep doing this for? So it is interesting that it does start at 0, right? Us as humans, we think that it's going to start at 1, but it doesn't. And so let's go ahead and do a little bit of a miniature challenge here and see what do we need to do in order to get the numbers to print from 1 to 10. So let's think about this. Let's do it in steps. And so I'm going to think out loud on how I want to approach this, and hopefully you're thinking about the same thing. And so I can do something like this. I know I need to have 10, right? I need to go from 1 to 10. So let me go ahead and start off my for I in range. I'm going to put 10 in here. And then of course I know I need my colon, and then I'm going to print I. And let me go ahead and play with this, save it, and I'm going to highlight this and run it, and I get 0 through 9. Well, how can I shift that by 1? That's going to be my thinking here. And I can go ahead and add a plus here at the end of the I and just do +1. So now I can save this and run it, and now I get 1 through 10. So that is one way of doing it. So the range can have up to 3 parameters, but in this example here, we're going to try out 2 parameters this time. And instead of just supplying it 1 number, we're going to supply it 2 numbers, and it's going to be the start point and then the end point. So let's see what it looks like, because again, we can simulate what we just did on lines 11, on 10 and 11, and doing that utilizing a start and an end point. So we're going to try that again. We'll say for I in range, and then we're going to go ahead and do 1. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because I want to show you what this looks like first, and then this is why we want to try out code, and it's okay to be wrong, and then we just need to adjust. So in my mind, right, I'm thinking 1 through 10. I just want to go 1 through 10. I want the start point to be 1 and the end point to be 10. And then I'm going to go ahead and print this. So now if I save this and I highlight this and run it, I get 1 through 9, 1 short. And the reason behind this is our stop point. This is when it's going through the loop process, and at the end of each iteration, it's checking to see, hey, are we at the end point yet? Oh, we are, because on that last time, it's actually 10. So it goes ahead and stops. So if we want to get that extra number on there, we have to go 1 over. And so we could do something like this, where we hit the play button and run it. Let me go ahead and highlight and run, just to show you that we get 1 through 10. So that is a second way of doing it with realizing the range of a start point and an end point. Now, I'm going to throw a little mini challenge at us here. And this is where we're going to have to go from 1 to 10, but this time we only want to print the even. So let me go ahead and scroll up and post this one. And you may want to pause the video, go back to the expressions, and look at which expression do we have available to us that allows us to take the remainder, because that's how we're going to kind of approach this, because we have to put some conditional thinking in our minds of, hey, I now have a new parameter here. I don't want to print 1 through 10. I only want to print if it's divisible by 2 and the remainder is 0. So see if you can go search and find it. Pause the video and then come back. We're going to go ahead and draw this out. Well, hopefully you ended up finding what that modulus looks like. And so we're going to do for I in range. And we already know from before we want 1 through 11. Now, I'm also going to put in here if modulus 2, right, equals 0. And what does that mean to us, right? That's saying, hey, let's say, for example, I is 2 divided by 2 is, right, with the remainder of what, right? So we get 0, so it's going to print it. Let's picture 4 in our minds, right? 4 divided by 2, and then what is the remainder? Oh, the remainder is 0. So we're going to go ahead and print it here. So that's going to be the logic behind this. We're going to go ahead and save it, and then highlight and run it, and we get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Perfect. That's what we ended up getting. That's what we needed. Let's do another mini challenge, knowing that we know a little bit more about the range of the start point and end point. And this time we're going to create a mini challenge of a multiplication table for the number 5. So we're going to have this loop go through 5 times 1, 5 times 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 10. And then we want to display that. And so this is going to reinforce some of the special formatting strings that we saw earlier on in our videos with this. So again, we've already got some of the groundwork here that we're looking at, but let's go ahead and take this for what it is. Let's go ahead and solve this like a problem solving. So generate the multiplication for the table 5. So I'm going to say something like this. I'm going to say number equals 5, all right, because that's going to be my starting point. And then I want to have a loop that multiplies this number and prints it out for me. So I'm going to say something like this. For I in range. Now we already know how to get 1 through 10 from our previous example, right? And then we're going to do something like this. We'll say, we're going to step this out. I know we can do this all in one line like what this code editor is trying to show me to do, but let's go ahead and stub this out by creating another variable. So we'll do product equals whatever our multiplication number is up here, and then we want to multiply that by I, right? So just think about this as we're going through the loop. I is 1, it starts off at 1, 1 times 5, and then whatever that result is, it's going to be stored in this variable. And so then we can print something like this. We can go print, and then we want the F, curly boy, right here, curly boy number, and then this is just a normal X from the keyboard, and then times the I, since we're in the loop, and then it's going to equal our product that we stored right here on my line 29, right? So let's go ahead and save that, run it, and then we're going to be able to see our multiplication table that we just created from 1 through 10 of multiplying by 5. Again, we made some nice reusable code here, so go ahead and test out 9, right? Let's go ahead and save that and run it. You can put any number that you'd want in there. And our loop is going to adjust and print out the proper numbers and the proper values. It's pretty cool, pretty cool. Now, the last part that I would like to talk about here involving range is that it can take, like I mentioned before. Now we have a start, we have a stop, and then we have a step. I know that's a lot of S's, but we're going to try to break this down here for you. Maybe, just like before, I put a stipulation in this last one where a mini challenge to print the even numbers from 1 through 10. Now, you could do this without using this modulus, but I put the stipulation in here that you use an if statement. So let's try doing that exact same thing without an if statement, showing you that we can go from 0 all the way to 100, and we can just do the evens. So watch this. I'm going to go ahead and scroll up just a little bit. I'm going to do for I in, and we're going to do from 0 to 100. And then this is where our step is. The step means how many are you incrementing each time you go through the loop. All right, that might be a little confusing, but just think that if we're starting off with 0 right here, once we get done with this loop, we're going to add 2 to that number. We're going to add 2 to I, right? So 0 plus 2 is 2. And then after it gets done with the 2, then it goes to the 4, and then the 6, and so on. So let's go ahead and demonstrate that real quick, and then we can just do a print I and save this, and let's go ahead and run this. So as you can see, we got zeros, and we have all the even numbers. And it doesn't go all the way 100. Again, that's why we test things out. If we go up to, doesn't matter, 101 or 102, if we save that, run it, we get all the way up to 100. So that is the range where it takes 3 arguments. Now, another neat thing that we can do with this is the step. And again, we got some examples below this video for you to go through that we didn't cover in this video. But one of the ones that I wanted to show you is we can also do a negative step. We can step backwards. So mini challenge, let's count backwards from 10 all the way down to 1. And what that would look like here is for I in range, we want to start at 10, so we want to start all the way at the top, and then we want to go all the way to 0, but we want to go minus 1, right? So now we just created a quick little countdown, right? Let's go ahead and save that, highlight, and run it. And now we got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that will give you from 10 down to 1, nice little countdown. But loops, it's going to take you just a little bit to understand the loops. There's different types of loops that we didn't cover in this. It's going to be covered in different modules, but it also works on strings and lists and everything. So just know that you're not done with loops. You're not going to stop seeing loops, and they're just going to be part of your programming. So take a look at the examples that we have below this video. Please take a look at those and go through them and copy and paste them and make sure that you can understand them in the next video.